Hi everyone, Mature Simmer here. So, into fall. But let's get our lights on. It's now a little bit early, obviously. So, getting ready to get going. Had a little bit of fun this morning. I'm hoping it's not going to turn into a problem, but Giants released an update to version 1.5, and the servers were not updated to that, so I've reverted back to an older version, but again, just not sure if somehow, like, I don't know how this all works, like if they suddenly decide to update the server, is it going to crash when we're on, and then we lose everything we've done or what, but not sure. So I'm hopeful that I'll be able to do this and it will store it all, but I just don't know. So in any event, I am starting with my soybeans, which are, as you can see, ready. So this is the last of what we need for our pigs, if I understand correctly. Now, if I've made some error, I guess I'll be disappointed. I've been as careful as I can be, trying to understand what I need to do. Trying to think. This seems to be, maybe this might be the slowest and lowest yielding crop of all that I'm going to have. Because I think the sorghum was jumping up at a much higher level, but not sure. So I'm going to go ahead and do kind of the same start here. I'm going to cut a couple of headlands. Now, I've really got nothing else around me at this point, so of the 3 crops I've had to harvest this year, at this point this is the easiest one because I don't have to worry about jumping into another crop, running it over. Like, everything around it is harvested. Like, this is it at this point. So I can move with reckless abandon at 6 miles per hour and just go crazy, trying to get everything done that I need to get done as quickly as possible. So look out, world. Crazy stuff happens at 6 or 7 miles per hour. So alright, so we're going to be a little over 25% running the one headland. So definitely not going crazy here with the amount of crop that's being pulled in, but it's alright. We get what we get, and then we'll go from there. So we'll pick this up a bit. We'll kind of get a little bit of this here just because, why not? Because I don't think this lines up with the second level anyway, but it might, so I guess maybe let me back this up a bit. And I'm having a little bit of a challenge. My Logitech wheel update occurred a few days ago, and it's just not actually letting me get in and do anything in the Logitech G Hub. It keeps showing that it's trying to connect to the wheel for some reason, so I don't know what's happening there. I've not had that problem before. I've tried restarting my machine, all that kind of stuff, but to no avail. And so the wheel feels a little weird today, but at least it's functioning. So just a lot of issues happening right now. I noticed the wheel problem because I'm kind of poking around with another thing while I have the opportunity. I've got some free access through Microsoft giving me a Game Pass trial for 3 months that basically lets me kind of get to whatever they have. So I was checking that out and kind of playing around and just trying to get some exposure to the flight sim and see what I think of that. Right now what I think of it is it's extremely difficult, and because there's not really anything specific to do in it other than just pick 2 airports and do your thing. It's certainly not like calling to me, like even if I got good at it, that I'd be like, oh yeah, I wanna do this more frequently or something. It's interesting and all. I mean, right now I've been like picking airports close to where I'm at. Been fascinated. My wife's not nearly as fascinated as I was when I showed her a picture of a local airport that I took off from. I'm like, look, that looks just like whatever. And she's like, you told me the game uses satellite data. Like, why would you think that wouldn't be there? But anyway, that's the level of my excitement at this point in Farming Simulator Flight Simulator. My excitement in Farming Simulator is high because I enjoy it, and again, I have purpose. I'm getting food for pigs. I'm doing whatever. Like, there's really not any kind of missions or anything. I've seen things like, there's virtual air traffic, I guess, with like real people that have been air traffic controllers before that sit there and basically, I assume on multiplayer servers, will like run the air traffic. But that's like way more than I want to get involved with, because I don't feel I'm like remotely good enough to even fly around other people. But I think that would just, the game itself is insane for the requirements for the computer. So I just wanted to get my GPS kind of lined up and set. So yeah, just finishing the flight simulator thing. It's just its requirements are high. I was watching some videos from folks who know what they're doing on how to adjust settings, and like one of the settings they suggested was the rolling cache, and hey, if you have space, and I do have like a second hard drive that is gargantuan, and so I went ahead and gave myself like 500 gig of rolling cache space compared to the 8 that the game had defaulted to, I guess. And the pop-up comes up when you save it, oh, this will just take several minutes. It's several hours. Luckily I did it like before. I mean, I was planning on doing a little bit, like at least finishing fine-tuning the graphics settings and stuff per what this YouTuber was suggesting, and after like 10 minutes I gave up after it had gone, I think, into like 5% done. And I had gone to bed, and hours and hours later, I always love that, like, it's this time, and the light bulb turns on, the world suddenly got much brighter. I didn't do anything, I promise. I don't know that it's bright enough to turn my lights off. I mean, it's close. So, but yeah, in any event, it was basically like 6 hours later when I woke up, and it still wasn't done. It was at like 95%, and I think I had to wait another 20 minutes for it to finish the final 20%. And if it's going to help me, I have no idea, because at this point I haven't turned around and actually tried to fly another flight or something. And again, I'm literally flying like 40-mile flights just locally, just to kind of understand the game and so forth. But at this point, I think I've had access to it for a while, but I should probably, instead of doing what I just did, I should probably stick with letting it stay on the GPS line and then fixing what the problem is going to be here on the left, rather than trying to do that and then coming back and snapping to the GPS line. Because at least this way I know that I've got this done correctly, and I can then just pick up the rest of the soybeans that it didn't get over there. So yeah, I don't know that I'm definitively ever going to get an answer on this on the farm sim side here with, is this really lower yield? Because it's not as if I can guarantee that this is similar in size to the sorghum or not. Like I said, it just feels like the numbers are clicking up substantially slower, is what I'm basing that on. I think it was at least kind of jumping with the sorghum, and I would say this is more kind of, you can watch the numbers go up pretty cleanly, so it just doesn't seem the same. Be careful. I know at some point it gets too deep in the water, but I think I have to be really close to kind of the center of the river before that really becomes a real problem. Get my pipe out. I don't know that I'm going to make it to the other side without being full, so I'll have to back up. You can see the truck over there off to the right. I think I did jump into it at some point before the end of the last episode, so you probably knew that if you've been following along, but I decided to leave it there just because I kind of had a feeling I'd be having to stop at the headlands, and figured this would be the easiest way to get it, but then I, again, completely forgot the way I have this field right now. I'm not really changing the direction, so I kind of realized that after 2 passes, like, wait a minute, I want to stay this way, so I better get my GPS going, which obviously is what we did the last pass down the field, where instead of following those 2 headlands I then snapped to the line, and now we're going. So yeah, we're finally coming up on that first harvester being full, so as I said, definitely not a lot of stuff there. Alright, so once we snap to about 99, that'll be good enough. There we go. So just get this out of the way so I can get the truck in here, do the normal pull over and place my position there. Yeah, I still have yet to figure out, like I jumped out to hook the hoses up and they're already connected. So I've yet to figure out why sometimes it disconnects, other times it does not. But for whatever reason, today they were connected, and then other days when I frankly just forget, I then find they're not connected. So I do not understand, but maybe it's just not for me to understand. It's a mystery of the universe that will never be explained. Kind of like why Giants upgrades things, because some servers are visible, so it sounds like we're waiting for Nitrato to update the servers to 1.5, and so that's kind of my issue, is like if they suddenly decide in the next, whatever it is, hour or however long I'll be on here, that they decide, yeah, we're going to update. Like, does that stop this from working? I kind of would imagine it would, because what I was having happen was that I couldn't see the servers, and so when I went to the FSN Discord, the operations person that was on said, yeah, that's because our servers are still on 141. I'm watching them, and I'm like, okay, so does that mean I need to wait? Or, and then someone said, well, if you're on Steam, you can always revert, and I am, and I just had forgotten how to do that. I've done it in things like American Truck Simulator and stuff, but it's one of those things that I do so infrequently. It's probably many months in between, probably 6 months or more each time that I have to ever look at it. So, you know, there's always those type of things happening that you forget about and you need some guidance on. So they've reminded me how to do that, and that's what got me in here this morning, because I was like trying to stay on my schedule, and once again the game is conspiring against me to allow me to do that. But luckily I was able to do what I needed to get back on here and hopefully do it, and I'm just hoping I won't be thwarted in some way, because it would be terrible if suddenly, like, they update us, we're not saved, and then it's like, oh, you know, your harvest has to be done all over again. So let's cross our fingers and hope that won't happen. And so partially I'm hoping that they just won't get to it for several hours, and, you know, it's not like I've got, you know, 6 hours of work here. You know, you can see I'm making good progress. I'm maybe even 25% of the way done already. So, you know, the question is, again, I mean, it's more than 10. I don't think it's more than 20 is going to be what I'm going to guess on this. And as far as the GPS rows, so, you know, we're on 3, but I think we have more than 7 more there to go. But given that, in essence, 4 rows here, because again, you got to remember the GPS starts at 0. So yeah, Nickum was on, as you can see. So we had to, if someone's on, if you see the let me know when ready to accept server sync, I sent him when I jumped on. If someone's on, when you try to sync the server, they have to accept the sync. And so the problem ends up being if somehow they're away from the keyboard, which doesn't happen often, because again, that's part of kind of the rules with FSN, is people aren't supposed to be away for more than 15 minutes. So usually they'd be around pretty regularly. But I always check, because especially if I'm coming in to actually do work, it's one thing if I'm just syncing and then planning on leaving. I can always leave it running in the background for a little bit until they respond. But, you know, in this case, I wanted to harvest because of the situation that was occurring, so I don't want to sync and then basically the server, you know, you're waiting for them to accept before you can proceed usually. Although I think I've noticed with FS22, like, it does, it might take you back and let you operate and then just sync later. I don't know. Because yeah, in FS19, like, it would just basically sit there and wait for other folks to respond, and there were times where there were 3 or 4 of us on the server at the same time when we were trying to sync, and, you know, there'd be one person that took a little longer to respond or something, and we'd find out about that in chat later, where it was like, hey, I had walked away from the keyboard for 5 minutes, and sorry guys, but so I've kind of learned my lesson that way, that I try to check if I know people are on, because it's, you can see when you're connecting to a multiplayer server, it tells you how many of the 6 slots are full that we have on our server. I mean, there's servers that can have 8 or 10, but we've got 6. And I'm not quite sure how they determine that in some cases, but because I think we're at the point now where theoretically, I mean, we're full. I don't know if they would bump us up to a bigger server to let more folks on, because there are, I think, Shellbrook servers that have more than 6 slots on them. So, you know, if we could get more folks, hey, the more the merrier, right? But I'm sure that all comes with the price, too, of, I mean, literally the price. I'm sure it's a more expensive server from Nitrato. But In addition, I'm sure from a performance standpoint or whatever, it probably is more challenging too, but who knows? Because, yeah, at least I'm back to the point where I do get a little bit of overlap. It seems the two new FMs that joined, the Rented Foot and Nickum, are at least appear a little bit when I've been on. Nothing we've tried to coordinate together, but obviously a couple episodes ago, whatever it was, see them driving around, and, it just shows that there's life on the server and things are happening. Yeah, I'm pretty sure this is taking longer to harvest, so we may not even get 100,000 liters off this field. I'm starting to think, because we've only got, it's 18,000 in the harvester. That's all we have in the truck is basically one harvester full, which wasn't even quite full. We're getting up on our second one here, but thinking we'll get a full truck of 80,000, assuming we don't have a weight issue again, but I don't know. But at this point, again, I'm going to keep at it, keep cracking, and I will update you when it's time to give you something to see. So I'll see you in a bit. Last harvest of year 86 is now done. So, excellent work. I'm glad I could get it finished. Had a little bit of a challenge in that in the interim they did upgrade the server. I ended up losing about and having to redo about 45 minutes of work. So, certainly would have preferred to not have that challenge, but was able to get back on and get it done. So, happy for that. Get this all set up here so that we can do what we need. That won't help because I need to get the truck out of here. So let me do that first. Kind of figured that would happen. I wasn't far enough forward. Alright. So we did only get one full truck over there, so basically it looks like we're going to have about 100 to 101,000. Well, it'll be 101,000 because we did have a full 80,000. I got confused because the harvesters are never quite full, so I was like, well, maybe we got less, but no, the truck ended up obviously being fully loaded when it came over. So definitely the lowest yield we had of any of our three crops, but we'll see what that turns into from the pig math standpoint. So let me pop over here. And we'll get that unloaded. So 101,062 liters. You learned something new too. I did not know if you shut the truck off, it will not fall out, because obviously it just, once the door's open, it's like gravity, but I guess in theory the door closes when the truck stops. So again, let's see where we're at. Alright, so if we're back here in the pigs to understand what the soybeans do for us, soybeans fill protein. So that's a 20% issue there, and with 101,000, that basically ends up being 6,800 liters when we were full, is what that was. So if I take that, divide it by our normal range, assuming that a full pen gets us about 2 days, it's probably closer to 3 days, because if you recall, I think we filled this pen when we started the harvest, and we're still at 14,000 liters here, so I'm not going to be moving any food yet. I'm going to let these go until tomorrow at least, and you know, they should be down very close to empty at that point. So we'll have to see what things look like. So at that pace, we have about 3 years, or you know, get just a little under 3 years. So we have over 2 years. So it's still better than sorghum. And part of the issue with sorghum is obviously it's you know, serving as the base food, which needs the highest capacity. But what that likely means now, if I think through, is that I'm going to have to plant sorghum immediately for next year, and then I'm going to want to plant soybeans immediately the year after that, and then that should get me in a pretty good spot. You know, then we'll have to see if we have to turn around and do wheat right away, or some other grain, but that's what we're looking at for the pigs at this point. So gone ahead and repaired up so that we're kind of set for next time. Park this here. So in looking at the pigs, I did notice that of course their slurry is incredibly full. So I need to get that emptied. So we're going to go ahead and do that. Got a good portion there. Get this taken over. I may try at some point to see if I can do a full trailer. I just haven't gotten to that because I'm pretty sure that's going to be a miserable experience. This thing's pretty challenging as it is, but obviously if I can just take one trip, you would think that that would still be quicker. I don't know, because it's not like I'm that far from Peavy's Market, but you know, obviously I'm farther than you know, right across the street, so it's possible that even if I'm struggling to get up the hill, because I think on areas like this, once I'm kind of on the roads and so forth, I mean, where it's flat, I think I'll have a better shot, but you know, obviously that turn I'm kind of slowing down, but it might be worth an attempt, because in theory the capacity on this is 60,000 liters. It's just, you know, we're not going to fill it. But, you know, the problem we're going to have is if somehow it is a problem, you know, maybe what I need to do next time is like go to 40,000, see if it's really, really different, and then, you know, figure that extra 10,000 if I'm still kind of moving at this pace where it's not terrible. Because, you know, clearly like here I was struggling to get past 41, probably because there was a little hill there. Now I gotta remember, because yeah, I think this is the road here. No, this is not the road. See, now I almost turned too early. This is the road through town, but it's this road here that I always forget to turn on, and then I'm turning on the other one. Because it's like, I still think it's in town, even though, like, that's a different place there. You know, it's an industry across the street, but it just kind of blends in with the houses, and it doesn't look like I should turn into town till the next road. So that's always been kind of what's been messing me up here, but anyway, yeah, I can get up to, you know, 40 miles per hour that way, and so it shouldn't be terrible if I kind of stay at that pace, and then at that point I would think it's not going to suddenly clobber me with another 10,000 liters, but who knows? Because what I would like to think is that the max weight is something that the truck can handle, but maybe not. Obviously, again, we had the problem, and then it's not like I can dump slurry anywhere. I guess I can go back if it's really super slow and maybe put it back into the pig pen, but I don't think so. I think that's only an output. I think if I had a slurry tank, I might be able to do that. You know, like slurry storage, one of those round things that you do, you know, saving up from a cow barn or something for a BGA, but because this is part of the pig shed and I can't really, like, see it, I don't know that it operates the same way. I suppose it's easy enough to try just by pulling up to the pig pen and seeing if it'll let me offload when I pull away. So maybe I'll check that out when I get this last load. Yeah, so no trigger point to put it back in. So yeah, it's like once I'm full, I'm full. So we'll see what I come up with next time. So overall, and now that I've kind of gotten this cycle through so that I understand kind of how it works, to being honest, I'm a bit disappointed in the output that we got for other things. Now, I may be able to play around with the other crop types that I can fill something with, but I'm just not sure. I mean, I can certainly take a look, because I know I think I did a full field of corn down there previous year, so I can see what that looked like without like going through the effort. But sorghum, I might like double that at best as far as the capacity I got now if I just plant the whole field. But even if I double that at this point, what that's telling me is that means like every 4 or 5 years still I'm going to need to plant that crop to get another 4 or 5 years out of it. So it starts to kind of fill up the schedule, and that's where this definitely, in hindsight now, I'm almost wondering if this is more complex than cows, which is a strange thing for me to be saying as I say it out loud. But at the end, once you get everything running, I mean, crop-wise, I'm trying to think through, because it's normally hay. I guess you have a need for straw, because you need hay, straw, silage, typically in a TMR mixer. I went too far again. See, it's just this automated brain thing. It's like my subconscious does not see that road if I'm talking. So, I'd have other crops other than the grass. I mean, the difference is you're then not really planting the grass. The grass just keeps growing. So it's not like you have to seed the grass other than once. And then you get hay, and then, you need a bunker silo. And then you're getting silage. So you're getting 2 out of your 3 items. But in FS22, I think I've seen that most of the TMR things require mineral feed as well, which at this point I think requires you to buy it. So, so that seems a bit foolish. The question is, like, will a cow barn, can you just put the 3 pieces in there, but then you need somewhere to store it? So I'm not entirely sure. So my initial knee-jerk reaction was kind of like, wow, because at this point, no, what I was saying is, if I can get double and say I can run sorghum every 4 or 5 years, that still means every 4th or 5th cycle, I'm forced to plant that, and then let's say soybeans, double that, and that's my option there. That's another crop, and obviously then we have grain. So it's like we're looking at 4 crops that we've got to rotate through, and the only one really is root crops that looks like I can get by with getting a lot from one harvest, where again we're into 20 game years or whatever it was. And I wasn't expecting that level on anything else, but I was certainly hoping I was going to be looking at 7 to 10, so that I could basically go through 3 or 4 years each time without really even having to think about a crop. So, and what this may turn into, frankly, is I may just determine I'm not going to keep up with animals, and I may just choose to sell off the pigs and and go do that, which is partially one of the reasons I looked at pigs versus, again, I was very familiar with the complexity of cows and just the infrastructure you need with the bunker silo, the all the other things, and you just never are getting those dollars back. Not that I'm going to get the dollar of the pigsty back, but the pigsty is really all I had to do. I didn't have to put in any other buildings or any other cost to run the pigs other than the enclosure for them, and then doing the work with the crops, but which is no different than doing the work with the crops for cattle. But yeah, the initial reaction was, well, I plant grass, I don't have to replant it, so all I'm doing is fertilizing, cutting, but then you are drying it, you do it, and then you need a baler, and you need the bunker silo, or you need a forage wagon if you don't have a baler or don't use a baler. So there's just a lot more to go with it, and then if you back out, it's not money you're going to get back. So that's why I figured I'd try pigs. But at this point, if I don't really get a choice in crops in a lot of cases, because right now what's happened is I haven't been able to help the Suez project at all. I've been focused on the pigs for 2+ years. And now it looks like it's going to be 3+ years, because this next crop is basically dictated to me. I need to put in either sorghum or corn, and so I'll make that decision on likelihood, what the capacity is there, and then and then go from there. That's all I've got for now, but we'll delve into that in future episodes, and I'll see you next time.